What if a home, a place of safety and comfort, simply swallowed three people whole, leaving behind no clues, no signs of a struggle, and no answers? Imagine a scene where everything is in its place: cars in the driveway, purses on the floor, the dog waiting patiently. But the occupants have vanished into thin air. This is not the plot of a movie. It is the chilling reality that began on a warm summer night in Springfield, Missouri, marking the start of one of America's most baffling and enduring mysteries. The night was June 7, 1992, a time for celebration. Friends Suzie Streeter and Stacy McCall, both 19 and 18 respectively, had just graduated from high school. After a night of parties, they planned to stay at the home of Suzie's mother, 47-year-old Sherrill Levitt. They were last seen around 2:00 a.m., heading to Sherrill's comfortable house on East Delmer Street. It was the last time anyone would see the three of them. They walked into that house and seemingly stepped out of existence. The first sign that something was terribly wrong came the next morning. Friends and fellow graduates who were supposed to meet Stacy and Suzie for a trip to a water park couldn't reach them. Calls to the house went unanswered. When a friend and her boyfriend went to the home later that afternoon, they found the front door unlocked. Nothing seemed out of place at first glance. The television was on, and the women's purses, containing their cash, credit cards, and driver's licenses, were all neatly lined up on the floor. The eerie normalcy of the scene was what made it so terrifying. The three cars belonging to Sherrill, Suzie, and Stacy were parked outside. Their cigarettes and lighters were left inside. Sherrill and Suzie's beds looked as though they had been slept in. The family dog, a small Yorkie named Cinnamon, was anxious but unharmed. The only thing out of the ordinary was a single broken globe on the front porch light. In their haste to help, the friends tidied up the house, inadvertently compromising a potential crime scene before the police were even called. When the police arrived, they were faced with a puzzle that had no starting point. There was no blood, no signs of a fight, and no ransom note. It was a pristine scene of disappearance. Investigators were immediately struck by the contradictions. The women had clearly been home and settled in for the night, so why would they leave on foot without their cars, keys, or money? The theory of a voluntary disappearance was quickly dismissed. These women had not just left, they had been taken. One of the most frustrating early clues was a message on the home's answering machine. A friend who called the morning of the disappearance heard a strange, garbled message she couldn't understand. In a heartbreaking mistake, she inadvertently deleted the message while trying to listen to it again. Police were never able to retrieve it. They could only speculate on what it might have contained: a threat, a clue, or the voice of the person or persons responsible. It was the first of many dead ends. The investigation quickly expanded into a massive search operation. Police, volunteers, and family members scoured the surrounding Ozark woods and waterways, looking for any sign of the missing women. The case, dubbed the Springfield 3, captivated the nation, and tips began to pour in from all over the country. Investigators had to sift through thousands of leads, from psychic visions to deathbed confessions, each one promising a breakthrough but ultimately leading nowhere. The women had vanished without a whisper. Attention soon turned to the women's personal lives, particularly Suzie Streeter's. Investigators looked closely at her recent ex-boyfriend and his friend, who had been accused of vandalizing a relative's property shortly before the disappearances. There were rumors of jealousy and a tumultuous relationship. Both men were questioned extensively by police. They cooperated with the investigation and passed polygraph tests, and with no physical evidence linking them to the scene, they were eventually cleared as primary suspects, though a cloud of public suspicion lingered for years. A potentially significant eyewitness account emerged. A woman reported seeing a suspicious-looking van parked near the Levitt home around the time the women were last seen. Later that night, she claimed she saw a woman who matched Suzie's description driving the van, looking distressed and being directed by an unseen male driver. The witness was unable to provide a license plate number, and police were never able to locate the van or the mysterious man, leaving the sighting as another tantalizing but unconfirmed piece of the puzzle. As the years turned into a decade, the case grew colder, but new, more sinister persons of interest emerged. One of the most compelling was Robert Craig Cox, a convicted kidnapper and robber who was also a suspect in a Florida murder. Cox was living in Springfield at the time of the disappearances and had worked for a company that laid underground cables. He made a series of chilling, cryptic statements to journalists and investigators, suggesting he knew what happened to the women. Cox claimed that the women had witnessed a drug deal gone wrong and were killed to ensure their silence. He stated that their bodies were buried and would never be found, even hinting at a location near a specific bridge. He told one reporter that he knew the women were dead and that he would reveal the full story after his mother passed away. However, his stories were inconsistent, and he refused to give a direct confession. With no evidence to corroborate his claims, police could not charge him. The lack of any physical evidence became the defining feature of the investigation. Without a body, a murder weapon, or a clear crime scene, building a case against anyone was nearly impossible. The house on East Delmar Street offered no fingerprints, no foreign DNA, nothing to suggest an intruder had ever been there. It was as if the perpetrators had been ghosts themselves, leaving no trace of their presence or their horrific actions. The case was a vacuum, a void of information. The families of the three women were left in a state of agonizing limbo. How do you mourn someone when you don't know if they are alive or dead? For years, they kept the women's rooms untouched, kept their phone numbers active, and held onto the hope that one day the front door would open and they would walk back in. The parents of Stacy McCall, in particular, became tireless advocates for their daughter, dedicating their lives to keeping the case in the public eye. Over the decades, technology evolved, offering new hope. DNA samples were collected from the women's personal belongings and entered into national databases, waiting for a potential match from an unidentified body found elsewhere in the country. Investigators periodically re-interviewed witnesses and persons of interest, hoping the passage of time might loosen someone's tongue. The case files grew to fill dozens of boxes, a testament to an investigation that never truly stopped. In 2007, a new lead generated a surge of media attention and hope. A credible informant suggested that the bodies of the three women had been buried beneath the concrete floor of the south parking garage at Cox Hospital in Springfield. The informant claimed to have knowledge from the perpetrator himself. This was the most specific and promising lead in years, and the police decided to take the extraordinary step of investigating it with modern technology. The supposed breakthrough moment hinged on the use of ground-penetrating radar, GPR. A team of forensic experts brought in the specialized equipment to scan a specific area of the parking garage floor. The radar was capable of detecting anomalies in the soil beneath the concrete, which could indicate a burial site. The media and the families watched with bated breath, hoping that after 15 years of silence, the ground was about to give up its secret. The GPR scan did reveal 3 anomalies, 3 areas where the soil composition was different. The results were consistent with the possibility of a grave site. The excitement was palpable. However, the radar could not definitively say what the anomalies were. They could be graves, but they could also be natural variations in the soil, construction debris, or utility lines. The lead investigator described the results as inconclusive, a heartbreaking echo of the entire case. The hospital, citing the high cost and disruption, was hesitant to allow police to excavate the parking garage floor based on inconclusive data. Without more certainty, the police could not obtain a search warrant to force the excavation. The promising lead dissolved into another frustrating dead end. The potential tomb beneath the parking garage remains undisturbed, its secrets, if any, still locked beneath layers of concrete and asphalt. It was a moment of hope that was quickly extinguished. In the aftermath of the parking garage investigation, the case returned to a state of quiet persistence. There were no more headline-grabbing leads, only the slow, methodical work of detectives reviewing old files and following up on sporadic tips. The families had to endure yet another wave of disappointment, their hopes raised only to be dashed again. The case became a symbol of the gnawing uncertainty that defines a long-term missing persons investigation. A few years after the women vanished, their families faced the gut-wrenching legal process of having them declared dead. This allowed them to settle their estates and provided a sense of legal closure, but it was a painful formality. Without bodies, there could be no funeral, no final resting place. The declaration was a legal recognition of what their hearts had feared for years, but it offered no answers and no peace. The women were gone, officially and forever. The Springfield Police Department has never officially closed the case. It remains an active investigation, now in the hands of a new generation of detectives who grew up with the story. They continue to receive tips on a regular basis, and each one is vetted and investigated, no matter how outlandish it may seem. The department maintains a public hotline and a website dedicated to the case, ensuring that the faces of Sherrill, Suzie, and Stacy are never forgotten. The legacy of the Springfield Three is one of profound and unsettling mystery. The case has become a staple of true crime podcasts, documentaries, and television shows, each one re-examining the scant evidence and exploring the various theories. It endures in the public consciousness because of its terrifying relatability. Three ordinary women, celebrating an ordinary life event, disappeared from an ordinary home. It suggests that safety is an illusion and that anyone can simply vanish. The lack of a resolution has allowed countless theories to flourish over the years, some more plausible than others. Some speculate a connection to a violent local drug trade, while others have pointed to transient serial killers who may have been passing through the area. There was even a strange, unsubstantiated theory involving a plot to rob graves that the women may have accidentally stumbled upon. In the absence of facts, speculation has filled the void. The emotional toll on the families is immeasurable. Janice McCall, Stacy's mother, became a fierce advocate not only for her daughter but for all missing persons. She founded a support group and worked to change laws to better protect the rights of victims' families. Her strength and determination in the face of unimaginable pain became a central part of the case's ongoing narrative, a human element in a story defined by absence. The house on East Delmer Street still stands, but it is no longer the same. For years, it was a grim tourist attraction, a place where people would slow down and stare, wondering what horrors had unfolded within its walls. The current owners have done their best to make it a home again, but it will forever be associated with the mystery. It is a silent witness that has never told its story, a physical reminder of the three women who walked in and never walked out. Over the years, other potential suspects have been mentioned, but like Robert Craig Cox, no evidence has ever definitively linked them to the crime. The investigation is a web of circumstantial evidence, hearsay, and jailhouse rumors. Without a confession or the discovery of the women's remains, it is unlikely that any prosecutor would be able to build a case strong enough to stand up in court. Justice, it seems, is just as lost as the women themselves. The single piece of physical evidence, The broken porch light has been debated endlessly. Was it broken during a struggle as one of the women was being abducted? Was it smashed by the perpetrator on their way in to ensure darkness? Or was it simply an unrelated accident? Like everything else in this case, this one small, tangible clue provides no solid answers, only more questions that branch off into endless possibilities. As of today, the reward for information leading to the resolution of the case stands at over $40,000. It is a testament to the community's long-standing commitment to finding answers. The hope is that money might finally motivate someone who has been holding a secret for over 30 years to come forward. Perhaps an accomplice or someone who heard a confession will finally decide that their conscience or the reward is worth more than their silence. The case of the Springfield Three serves as a stark and terrifying reminder of the fragility of life and the painful reality of the unknown. It shows that even with dedicated investigators, national media attention, and the passage of decades, some mysteries may simply never be solved. The story has no neat conclusion, no final chapter where the villain is caught and justice is served. It simply stops, frozen in time on that June night in 1992. The legacy of Sherrill Levitt, Suzie Streeter, and Stacy McCall is not just in the mystery of their disappearance, but in the enduring love of their families and the unwavering dedication of law enforcement. Their story has led to changes in how police handle missing persons cases and has raised awareness about the plight of families left behind. Their absence has had a tangible, lasting impact on their community and the world of true crime. Will we ever know what truly happened to the Springfield Three? It is possible that someone somewhere still holds the key to unlocking this decades-old mystery. They may be living with the heavy burden of their secret, watching as the years go by. The police and the families continue to believe that the case is solvable, that it only takes one person with one crucial piece of information to finally break the silence that fell over that house 30 years ago. We are left with the haunting image of an unlocked door, a waiting dog, and 3 purses lined up on the floor. It is a scene of domestic tranquility, violently interrupted by an unknown force. The story of the Springfield Three ends not with a period, but with a lingering, permanent question mark. What happened inside the house on East Delmer Street? And where are the 3 women who vanished without a trace?